Welcome back, you're here with Goldberg. Today I wanted to recast this video because I think the older version had some audio level problems. At any rate, when we look at religious text and stories, if you take the superficial approach, it could be easy to see the deeper truths slip through your fingers because you're just not paying enough attention. And it doesn't help that a lot of contemporary religious leaders just want the, fluffy fairy tales, and they forget about everything else that's difficult to approach and face. So I'm going to make the assumption that you have some background in Abrahamic religions. You understand the story of King Solomon, but if you don't, we'll give a brief summary. He was one of the kings of the Israelites, and he was renowned because when God asked him, "What do you want me to give you?" he said, "I want you to make me wise." Instead of, "I want to be powerful, I want women, I want riches," which of course he had all those things, and he would have more because of the decision that he made. God saw this as a positive thing, and he was pleased. Well, one of the parables or stories that is presented in the Bible as a way of illustrating his wisdom has to do with this dispute between two different women. So you basically had this, I guess you could call him a Philistine or Jerichoan Chad, and both of these women claimed to be the mother of his child that was quite young, pretty much newborn. So they're having this dispute, they're brought before the king, and both of them absolutely do not want to give up any ground. They both insist that they are the mother, they're the rightful person to raise the child. And so the king, he observes all this, Solomon does, and then he calls one of his guards and he says, "Bring the baby here, draw your sword and cut it in half, and give one half to each woman, so that they are satisfied." Now at this point, one of the women throws herself to her knees and begs him, "Please, don't harm the child, give it to her." And at this point, Solomon realizes that must be the mother, because why would the mom want to see harm come to her own child? And so he says, "Give the child to her, do not harm it." Now, this is a nice story, love of the mother for the child, all those sorts of things. That's how it's presented in contemporary religious circles. But I think there's a little bit more here that we don't bring up because it's not exactly politically correct. And that is that you had the other person, the other individual in this dispute, the plaintiff or the defendant, or I guess they were both plaintiffs in a sense, who was willing to see this innocent child sawed in half in order to be seen as right in the eyes of the king, in the eyes of society, in the eyes of the public. This is something that no one really takes into account. And of course, men are more than capable of this type of behavior, but I think the difference is that society doesn't really judge women as harshly, and in fact there's a lot of men who will stand by and firmly defend a woman who may be totally in the wrong or immoral or lying simply because her honor must be held bright as far as the public square is concerned. I mean, you think about it like some of these divorce cases or relationships that go bad. It's all right, I think we need to end this. Well, I'll accuse you of rape if you try to break it off, or I'll accuse you of rape in the divorce process. In other words, if you don't do what I want or what I expect, I will simply destroy your life. Consequences be damned, it doesn't matter. And it's interesting because there's an old Arthurian fable or legend, story of sorts, where the sorcerer gives him a riddle and says, if you don't solve this within a year, which is, what does a woman want more than anything else? If you don't solve that riddle, I'll kill you. So he scours the land for all this 12 months trying to find the answer, or he's obviously going to die. And turns out that the answer to the riddle is she wants her will. The only problem is some people want their will with like a scorched earth approach. And I have to just say this, be careful with anyone who is willing to win at any cost. Yeah, it sounds edgy, it sounds like a great strategy, but unfortunately there are people who will do it at the consequence of other individuals' lives. I mean, hell, I was in situations with retail where if you contradicted the wife or the girlfriend, even if she was wrong or she was trying to scam the store, Mr. Prince Charming would be there ready to physically attack you simply because how dare you dishonor her. And that's just something that we need to be a little bit mature about. If you want to live in a society that claims equality, you have to stop pretending that lying, cheating, or causing violence is okay just because you want to be right. So that's one of the things we can take away from the Prince Solomon story, is that there are people, men and women, although in the case of women oftentimes they're not judged as harshly for it, who are willing to twist the truth, who are willing to see other people harmed just so that when the spotlight comes on, they're like, oh yeah, they were correct. My friends, watch yourselves and watch others for this reason.